All right, let's dive right into this explainer on how the 2026 NBA champion New York Knicks masterfully navigated a massive off-season financial crisis. You know, championship windows in the NBA are notoriously fragile. Sometimes they last a whole decade, sometimes just a single season, and sometimes, well, sometimes they have to be immediately rebuilt the second the celebratory champagne dries. Today, we're going to look at exactly how the Knicks managed to keep their championship core totally intact after facing a really sudden and severe roster departure. So, picture this. It is the ultimate high-stakes dilemma. The Knicks had just ended a grueling 53-year championship drought. I mean, the parade down the Canyon of Heroes had barely even finished when the brutal business side of the NBA reared its ugly head. A really critical piece of their title run was walking right out the door, and the front office was suddenly staring down the barrel of some incredibly strict financial limitations. They had to figure out how to replace a champion, but they had to do it, and this is the tricky part, on a very tight budget.
Which brings us to part one, a championship-sized hole, losing the defensive anchor. $47.4 million. Just let that number sink in. That is the massive 3-year contract that the rival Boston Celtics used to lure Mitchell Robinson away in free agency. And look, Robinson wasn't just some backup. He was their defensive linchpin. He was a top-tier offensive rebounder and literally the quiet engine behind New York's historic playoff run. Seeing him jump ship to a direct conference rival, that was a massive gut punch to the newly crowned champions. Although, there is a tiny bit of sweet irony in watching Boston shell out that kind of premium cash for a player that New York developed.
Now, you might be wondering, why didn't the Knicks just match the offer? Well, that takes us to part two, the luxury tax trap, navigating the second apron.
The Knicks were looking at a classic Moneyball puzzle here. They were losing Robinson's elite offensive rebounding and rim protection entirely due to that heavy $47.4 million price tag. And in a really rare twist for New York, notoriously spend-happy chairman James Dolan actually decided to close his wallet. The team absolutely refused to cross the highly punitive luxury-taxed second apron. Doing that would have completely crippled their ability to build out the rest of the roster around core guys like Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby, and Josh Hart. So keeping Robinson became financially impossible. Instead, what the Knicks strictly needed was budget-friendly rim protection. They needed a physical bruiser who would willingly accept a low-maintenance role without ever demanding the ball.
And because of that, the front office had to pivot incredibly fast. Let's look at how this played out. June 2026, the Knicks win the title. Boom, by early July, Robinson is gone to Boston. The front office immediately targets Yves Missi, a rising defensive star over in New Orleans. The reporting shows they tried feverishly to trade for him, but the Pelicans flat out rejected every single offer, calling Missi a vital core figure. So suddenly, it's July 3rd, the clock is ticking, and the Knicks are forced to activate Plan B. They desperately needed a veteran who could replicate Robinson's impact without breaking the cap.
And that leads us to their absolute masterstroke. Part 3, the Drummond solution, finding value in free agency.
$3.9 million. On July 3rd, the Knicks agreed to a 1-year deal with veteran center Andre Drummond for what is, quite frankly, an absolute bargain. It's just an incredibly efficient contract that completely solved their financial constraints. It kept them safely below that dreaded second apron while securing a totally proven commodity.
Just look at the pedigree Drummond brings to New York. This isn't just your run-of-the-mill backup. We're talking about a 14-year NBA veteran, a 2-time All-Star. He's a 4-time NBA rebounding champion who literally led the entire league in offensive rebounds for 7 straight seasons. And overall, he averages a staggering 12.1 points and 11.9 rebounds over his nearly 1,000-game career. Plus, he brings this really invaluable recent experience. He spent the last 2 seasons perfectly accepting his role backing up Joel Embiid in Philadelphia. He knows exactly how to come off the bench cold and instantly change the physical tone of a game. The analytics behind this move are just brilliant. Seriously, think about this. Last season, Mitchell Robinson gave the Knicks about 5.7 points and 8.8 rebounds a night. Meanwhile, Drummond backing up Embiid, he gave you 6.8 points and 8.2 rebounds. The on-court production is nearly identical, especially when you look at them as rebounders. But here is the real kicker. The front office essentially replaced Robinson's production dollar for dollar. They swapped a $47.4 million commitment for a $3.9 million bargain. That is some serious front office wizardry. But hey, basketball isn't just played on a spreadsheet, right? It's about locker room chemistry too. Drummond actually took to social media right after the signing to say, "To the Knicks fans, I know what the city expects and I'm ready to embrace it. I'm coming in with gratitude, hunger, and a mindset to work." He also showed incredible humility when he was thanking Philadelphia on his way out. For a championship team that is constantly balancing stars and role players, that kind of maturity and lack of ego is exactly what you want. This is a player who isn't chasing minutes anymore. He's chasing a legacy.
So how does this actually look on the floor? Let's get into part 4, a new tactical identity, the front court duality.
With Robinson out of the picture, Coach Mike Brown's center rotation definitely shifts, but honestly, it remains incredibly dangerous. On one hand, you have your starter Karl-Anthony Towns. He is the ultimate offensive hub, right? Giving you elite floor spacing, outside shooting, and playmaking. But when Towns sits down, or when the Knicks just need to completely change the physical geometry of a game, they deploy Andre Drummond. He acts as this perfect defensive counterbalance. He gives New York a physical bruiser, a momentum-swinging rebounder, and a rim protector who just absolutely thrives in drop coverage. It lets Coach Brown seamlessly toggle back and forth between a finesse, stretch offense, and bruising interior power.
When you get right down to it, the Knicks didn't just sign a center. They reinforced their core identity. Their 2026 title was built on 5 main pillars: toughness, defense, rebounding, depth, and culture. Andre Drummond fits every single one of those perfectly. At just under $4 million, he is undoubtedly one of the best value signings of the entire NBA offseason. He's a stabilizer, a reinforcement who completely understands the assignment.
Which brings us to our final thought for today. The defending champions clearly aren't just standing still. They solved a massive financial headache with a brilliant, low-cost federal addition. So the big question we have to leave you with is this. Is this $3.9 million bargain the missing piece that guarantees the Knicks a back-to-back title in 2027? They certainly seem to have all the pieces in place. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and definitely keep an eye on how this masterclass in cap navigation actually plays out on the court this season.